Hello to everybody, including non-human animals. Um, it was a little mistake before when the organizer announced you that I will be the speaker. No, I won't. They will be the speakers. These animals. You saw some of them living free in the wild. And you know how beautiful is the planet we have. How beautiful is to see them, to see the animals living free, enjoying life. But do we protect this planet? Do we protect their habitats? Do we protect the environment? You all know the answer. So I'll speak in the name of the animals about one of our campaigns, because there were many people involved, and not only people, in order to stop using animals in circuses. And yeah, as you heard, I was the first vegan member of the Romanian parliament. In 2015, I decided to become a vegan, so more than 4 years ago. After 2 years of being vegetarian, I need a transition to veganism. And yeah, I decided to become a vegan when it was my birthday, because I thought, look, which is the best present that I can give to myself? And I thought that it's veganism. Yeah, and you know, a lot of animals, too many animals, are enslaved, are used in circuses, are used for tourist attractions, and look at the numbers. There are more than 500,000 of animals which are used for such kind of shows, entertaining shows, who have a big ethical issue, because the animals, in order to do the shows, they are taken from their mothers even when they are very small. They are beaten, they have to starve in order to perform the shows and to learn the tricks, or to provide selfies with tourists. Of course, such kind of images, such kind of behaviors are not natural for animals. Of course, they have to fear about something in order to do such things. And yes, even the big cats feel fear. And that's why they are forced to do such kind of tricks. The elephants are also beaten in order to perform dangerous and uncomfortable tricks. You cannot see such kind of things anywhere in the wild. And also, as you know, all of these animals, these poor animals, are kept in small cages. And, you know, in the wild, they need a lot of environment, a lot of hectares in order to live free. But they are kept in small cages of just few square meters. And this is a huge pain in itself. And of course, as you know, all the animals want to be free. We fought as humans for our freedom. And when we look at the history, there were very inspiring moments when we succeeded to step forward, to gain more freedoms, and to liberate ourselves from different forms of tyranny. But we are the tyrants for these animals, as long as they are used for our entertainment. So I'll speak a little bit about the Romanian political environment in order to understand better what's all about. Romania, as you know, was under the communism, under the dictatorship for more than 5 decades. And it's a kind of a new democracy. Unfortunately, the big parties from Romania still have some behaviors which reminds us about the bad periods in our history. And the electoral laws in Romania are not so democratic. Many of them are very restrictive. And imagine that for a party, in order to just to stand for elections, a party had to pay more than 400,000 euros at the elections in 2012. So it was almost impossible for a small party to pay such amount of money. That's why only the big parties were able to stand for elections. At that time, I was involved in politics as a Green politician, and for a short period I was the president of the Green Party in Romania. So for the Greens, it was impossible to stand for elections as a party. And of course, there is also a very high threshold of 5% of votes. So it was impossible for us to get seats in order to promote our values, including animal rights, in the Romanian parliament. So but if you have good ideas, if you want to fight for something in the political field, you also need to be pragmatic. Without being pragmatic, your good ideas have low chances, or maybe almost zero chances to be accomplished. So, being pragmatic, in 2012, I signed for an alliance with the big parties, the big bad parties. Some of my friends told me, "Oh no, they are big bad parties. Don't be an ally with them." Yeah, but the alternative was to do nothing. And if you want to join politics, if you want to do politics for good and to change something, especially in a country with a poor democracy like Romania, you have to understand that there will be costs. Costs of your public image. Many people will not understand what you are doing, and they will blame you just because you are doing politics. But in those circumstances, it was no other way to go forward. And thanks to this protocol that I signed with the big parties, on the right, there is the prime minister at that time, the prime minister of Romania at that time, and Mr. Victor Ponta. And thanks to this agreement between us, between the Greens and him, I was his advisor for a short period of 6 months for environmental issues and dialogue with civil society. And I succeeded to do something. These beautiful creatures, these beautiful animals, are the official national animals of Romanian state. But unfortunately, year by year, they were killed in large numbers by the hunters. They are protected by the European laws, but unfortunately, year by year, the Ministry of Environment in Romania decided to make some exceptions and to allow to the hunters to kill about 100 individuals every year. So, being the advisor of the Prime Minister, I convinced him. I worked together with some friends from the National Geographic magazine from Romania. They had some very beautiful articles and beautiful pictures with these species, lynx. And we convinced the government to stop hunting, to stop allowing the hunt of these beautiful species. So in 7 years, from 2012, we succeeded to save hundreds of these beautiful animals. When I've become a member of the parliament in 2013, I started to promote many laws, about 100 during my mandate, regarding various issues: human rights, LGBT rights, education, separation between church and state, and so on. Environment, of course. But I had 5 initiatives regarding animals. One of them was to stop killing the stray dogs. There were many stray dogs on the streets in the Romanian cities. And I tried to use unconventional strategies in order to promote these ideas. One of them was to wear T-shirts with messages. And the message of this T-shirt with a dog was, "I trust in humans, don't kill me." Because the government decided to kill all of the dogs from the streets. And I proposed an alternative law in order to manage this issue without killing the dogs. Another law, just a few words, to protect the dolphins in Romania. You know, the Black Sea is near Romania. There are many dolphins who are killed by people or because of our activities. And unfortunately, there is a dolphinarium in Constanța. Constanța is a city near the Black Sea in Romania. These dolphins are linked with infamous Taiji. Do you know what Taiji is? Taiji, Japan? So, every year in Taiji, there are many dolphins who are captured in order to be sold on this market of dolphinariums. And many other dolphins are killed to be eaten and to be sold like meat. Another law that I proposed was to increase the punishment for those who commit cruelty acts against animals. Here there are 3 young individuals who were very amused to cut the tail of a dog. And Romania has the lowest punishment for cruelty against animals. And unfortunately, every day there are at least 3 cases of such kind of cruelty acts reported, officially reported. And because of the low penalties for such kind of acts, almost nobody is punished. That's why I tried to increase the punishment from maximum 1 year to maximum 3 years in prison. I knew that somehow, I knew that somehow it's very hard to convince the other members of the parliament to vote for such kind of laws, but it was important at least to debate about this in order to change the mentalities. And another law that I proposed was to stop the hunting as sports. Because you know, many countries, most of the countries, allow the people to hunt beautiful animals. And this kind of activity is considered to be sports. But you know, in every sport, all of the participants have to agree that they are part of it. But in hunting, of course, there is no such a case. And this is a picture from a very infamous hunting event, which is done year by year, organized year by year by a famous former tennis player who was a champion at his time many decades ago. But this is the environment. In Romania, we had a lot of issues regarding animals and almost nobody in politics to fight for animals, for animal rights. But these issues succeeded to get some attention from media and from citizens and from other politicians. Of course, most of the politicians were very against these proposals. And I'll give you some examples. The law that I proposed to stop using animals in circuses, in the first weeks of the debates, there were only speeches against the proposal from other members of the parliament. The first chamber, Romanian parliament, has two chambers, the Senate and the Deputies chamber. The senators, most of them were very, very against. It was very hard for me to convince some of them to be in favor. All of the commissions, before the vote in the plenaries, there are debates in the committees, the Committee for Agriculture, the Committee for Environment, and so on, the Judicial Committee. And these committees vote first, and their opinions are sent to the plenaries. And the final vote is in the plenary. Maybe you know about this, but I wanted to be sure that you understand how the things are going. So, all of the committees in the Senate voted against the proposal. But when it came to the plenary, there were, I repeat, all of the committees voted against. When a draft law received only negative votes, it has a very low chance to pass in the plenary. And I was just me. I was the only green in the parliament at that time. And yeah, I was not backed by big parties. So it was very, very hard to get support. I tried to speak with some colleagues, but it was impossible for me to speak with all of them. It was no time for this. But when this draft law was rejected by the Senate in 2015, there were 41 votes in favor. And of course, 71 against and 3 abstentions. But 41 votes in favor is huge, having in mind the thing that all of the committees voted against. No party said that will support the law. So it was a quite nice surprise for me to see that many of the members of this chamber of the Romanian parliament understood that this is an issue. This is an issue, and they decided to vote in favor of it. And believe me, the debates in the plenary were quite interesting because there were many senators who spoke in favor of this proposal. But yeah, the vote of the Senate was no, was against. But the decisive chamber was the deputies' chamber. So the next step was to debate about this issue at the committees from the deputies' chamber. And there was a huge show. Imagine that at the, of course, no committee voted in favor. Even the environmental committee voted against this proposal to stop using animals in circuses. And imagine a committee with about 20 deputies, the Committee for Agriculture. And 11 members of this committee decided to say something about this proposal. All of these 11 people spoke against the proposal. Some of them being hunters or owners of businesses with animal farms. And one of them said that, of course, you will steal the children's smile. Because he couldn't imagine that you can have circuses performances without animals. He thought that if the animals will not be in the circuses, so the children who will go there will not smile because there will be no reason for this. And another shocking statement was of another of my colleagues who said, the training of the animals in circuses is based on the friendship between humans and animals. Can you imagine this? He thought that the animals are happy. The animals are so good friends of us, then they accept without any violence, without any force, without using any force against them, to live in small cages, to be scared by their trainers when they have to jump through fires. So this was the environment. It was not easy to convince people to vote in favor of such kind of proposal. But there were some NGOs, Worldwide Fund Romania, Vier Pfoten for Paws, many other activists, ordinary people who signed petitions which were sent to the members of the parliament. So it was a growing movement to support this proposal. But all of the campaigns took more than 3 years, because I proposed this in 2014, in August 2014, almost 3 years, in August 2014. And, you know, in politics, a lot of things depend by many things that you don't even think about. It's not enough to fight for something, it's not enough to get some support. Sometimes the success or the failure depends by luck or by unexpected events. So, at the committees in the deputies' chamber, the votes were no to all of the committees. And in 2016, there were just few weeks until the parliament, the parliament had to stop the work, and there were new elections at the end of 2016. And this law, this draft law, was about to be rejected because nobody supported it. So, as a deputy, I asked, I begged, I tried to beg my colleagues, please, don't reject the law, resend it, because sometimes you have to use the procedure. When you fail to convince your colleagues to vote in favor of you, of your proposals, you have to use the procedure in favor of you, if it's possible. So I tried to do so, and I asked them, please don't vote today in order to reject it. Please resend it to the committees. The procedure allows this. And maybe the next parliament will debate again about this issue. And you never know. Maybe something will be changed. Maybe the mentalities will evolve. Maybe something will happen. And maybe there will be some support for such a proposal. So that's why I asked in the plenary of the Deputies' Chamber not to reject this draft law, but to resend it to the committees. And this happened at the end of 2016. I ended my mandate as a deputy. I tried to stand for elections again as independent. I didn't get support of the people. As I told you, pragmatically speaking, for those who have new ideas, or for those who are members of small parties, the only chance to get seats in the Parliament of Romania is to join to an alliance with the big parties. Otherwise, there are very small chances. And at the beginning of 2017, so in January 2017, something very bad happened. It was a huge fire at the state circus. There is a state circus called Globus, and it was a huge fire there, and 11 animals, including 2 Siberian tigers, died because of the fire. And you know, when you try to speak rationally in favor of something, or when you try to convince people who have blind eyes, you have small chances to convince them. But when there is a crisis, when something unexpected happens, and tragically happens, many people wake up somehow. Many people wake up and realize, whoa, there is an issue. There is a problem. Let's do something. And because of this tragic event, all of the environment changed. And the parliament started to debate again about this proposal, which was not rejected in 2016. And on June 13, 2017, thanks to the effort done by many activists, many NGOs, many people, and some politicians who were elected in the new parliament who were more open, this was the vote. 201 votes in favor, only 7 against, and 58 abstentions. So it was a huge majority for this proposal. yeah, this was the story of which took about 3 years, almost 3 years, a story of an initiative which, if you think about it for just a few minutes, any person who have empathy, who understand the terrible pain of these animals, should support it. But yeah, in the Romanian parliament, where there are many hunters, almost about 20% of the members of the parliament, I saw some statistics, are hunters. And the biggest NGO in Romania is the NGO of the hunters. Can you imagine? More than 70,000 people are members of this NGO. And yeah, in such kind of an environment, it was very hard, but somehow this initiative succeeded to get the necessary votes. And thanks to these votes of the Deputy Chamber from 2017, no animal was used in circuses. There were some exceptions, dogs and horses, but this is another debate. We don't have time for it, because there are some amendments to the law, to the proposal. Without these amendments, it was very risky for the law to pass. So somehow they introduced some amendments, and they can use somehow dogs and horses. But anyway, it's a huge step forward. And of course, the animals thank to all those involved in these activists, politicians, journalists, because media was important, and people who protested or signed petitions. This was the presentation of these animals. If you have questions, please, non-human animals start first.